In San Perlita, this turtle isn't the only one stuck inside his home. We found 9-year-old Robert fishing from his front porch.
Because our neighbors said that the canal over-flooded. So we were hoping that there may be fish.
He hasn't caught anything yet, but he's determined.
Either catfish or katan.
Front porch fishing is all he's been able to do since Friday when his town started to flood.
After school, we came home, had to stay inside, do completely nothing since the power was off.
San Perlita canceled school today, leaving Robert bored at home. Robert's school is less than a mile from his house. You can actually see it from his front yard. The problem is his house is still surrounded by water. But tomorrow, school is on and he'll have to go to class.
I'm happy about it, but I'm also sad because I'm going to get wet.
Tomorrow, Robert will have to brave the dirty floodwaters to get to class. He doesn't mind. He wants to see his friends and make sure they're okay.
Because I'm afraid that the house is flooded way too bad.
He says though fishing at home can be fun, flash flooding is scary.
I was thinking that we're going to drown.
In the future, he hopes the only place to fish is the nearby canal. In San Perlita, Leslie Aguilar, Channel 5 News at 10:30.
Keep our arms back, up a little higher.
16-year-old Isaac Newman has big dreams of becoming an Olympic diver.
All right, let's go.
And the Lobo Dive Club is helping him get there, including Julie Weddle, the head coach for the club team and UNM's dive team.
I'm trying to be optimistic, and I'm trying to keep, my athletes optimistic because this is their livelihood.
That livelihood now struggling to stay afloat.
At the same time, I feel defeated because it's hard because felt like it's out of my hands.
Until now. An anonymous donor has come forward with $250,000 over the next 5 years to save Weddle's job. Along with it, the dive club and UNM dive team.
Getting the community involved, I think we can actually save our programs, but the community is gonna have to help up and do that right now.
UNM says donors can give funds to a specific program and decide where that gift will go. But in this case, that donation won't cover other costs associated with the team.
UNM says this fiscal year, the swimming and diving team required more than $500,000. Weddle says the diving team could fundraise to cover some of its expenses, but she points out the university will still have to put out a lot of money for the swim team. And some of those costs go hand in hand with the diving program.
Our swimming program can never be successful at our conference championships.
Then there's the ripple effect that could hurt other New Mexicans hoping to succeed.
I absolutely love it here. When I'm up on the board, it's really just absolute focus.
And this week's focus is to make a big splash at the Regents meeting.
San Joaquin 911, is an emergency?
Mom, there's like a big crash in the freeway.
The little rope completely snapped.
The rope snapped where?
In the median.
Snapped.
He crossed the median.
Bus flipped over.
A bus flipped over?
Yes, full of passengers.
One of those passengers was Javier Parra's grandmother.
It wasn't more of a reaction more than a reflex. We drove down here as soon as we could. We were just trying to look through the hospitals, keep hope that she was still alive.
But soon, all that hope was gone. Parra and his family learned his grandmother didn't make it.
Probably the hardest thing for me is knowing that was my last conversation with her, was for her not to leave and for her to stay here so I can take her out, so I can do everything.
Parra's grandmother was one of 3 people killed. Investigators say the bus with 34 people on board tried to avoid a crash on I-25 on Sunday. A car had rear-ended a pickup. The bus flipped and was then sideswiped by a semi.
People laying on the floor. It's a bus crash.
Parra's grandmother never made it to El Paso. Instead, he's now taking her body home to Denver.
Now I gotta stay strong for my family, and I gotta keep my head up.
Monkey? No, it looks like a horse, but it's not a horse.
Oh, a donkey?
Yes. Yeah.
He was a person that could light up a room, and he did. Every room he was in.
If you had to pick the exact opposite of Caden Montoya, you wouldn't have to look too far. It's his cousin and best friend, Jacob Montoya.
He had this calming effect. That was his gift to a lot of people.
The two were, as usual, together the night before Thanksgiving. Caden and his longtime girlfriend, Athena Lopez, were finishing some last-minute jobs to host the holiday at their Northwest Albuquerque home. Caden realized he needed to grab something at his office, and Jacob agreed to take him there.
And the last thing that we heard him say was,
Jacob, let's go for a ride.
Jacob, let's go for a ride.
He said, we'll be back. Jacob, let's go for a ride.
It should have been an 8-minute trip.
I came down and I said, Athena, where are these guys?
But an hour later,
she said, I called them, and I think their exact words were, I'm getting worried. I'm worried.
James, Caden's dad and Jacob's uncle, got in the car. He wasn't even driving 30 seconds when...
As I got closer, I saw the police tape all around the intersection, and I know what that means.
Caden and Jacob were both killed. Police say 21-year-old Dominic Martinez blew through the intersection of Irving and Universe and hit the Montoyas just shy of 100 miles per hour.
He said, Caden and Jacob have been in an accident. And I said, okay, where are you? I'll be right there.
And I said,
and
no.
he said, no, you need to stay there. They both died. And I said, okay, I'll be right there.
There's no excuse for this type of driving in the city of Albuquerque ever.
Police say excessive speeding was a major factor in this crash, but the victims' families say something has to be done about this intersection at Universe and Irving, and they believe they have an idea. They're pushing for a roundabout.
Stop signs don't cut it, obviously. Traffic lights don't cut it.
But what they're pushing for even more is closure and justice for Caden and Jacob.
This is a mistake that tore our world apart, but something needs to change. And it needs to change yesterday. It needs to change 2 weeks ago.
As if the case of Victoria Martins wasn't horrifying enough, our community is now left with a bombshell revelation. A fourth suspect somewhere out there could be walking the streets of our city.
After initiating this process in June of 2017, we received startling information from the state lab regarding the presence of an unknown male profile on Victoria's body.
Law enforcement is now left with a daunting task. How can we find this so-called John Doe, and what will it take to bring him to justice?
The tan part of the semi-automatic rifle is called a bump stock. It's a completely legal accessory that increases the firing rates for these semi-automatic weapons. Today we met with one Valley gun store owner who shows us exactly how this gun compares to a fully automatic rifle. A hail of gunfire rained down on Las Vegas concert goers on Sunday night. The sounds of rapid fire left many wondering if Stephen Paddock used automatic weapons. Law enforcement officials say at least one of the 23 weapons in Stephen Paddock's hotel room were modified with this, a bump stock.
Keep in mind that all of these add-ons to these weapons have all been approved by the federal government. So none of these are illegal, none of these are restricted.
Valley gun store owner Brian Guerra showed us how the bump stock modified weapons compare to fully automatic. Guerra is licensed by the federal government to manufacture and sell fully automatic weapons to law enforcement.
And I'm going to take you through what regular semi-auto is like. Then we're going to go to semi-auto with the bump stock, and then I'll show you full auto.
First up, the standard semi-automatic AR-15 with no add-ons. It takes Guerra about 6 seconds to discharge 30 rounds. That's a firing rate of about 5 rounds per second. Next, the AR-15 with a bump stock. In 4 seconds, Gedai clears his magazine. That's a firing rate of about 7 rounds per second. The bump stock replaces the gun's standard shoulder stock. It essentially uses the gun's recoil to bounce the weapon against the shooter's trigger finger. Yes, it increases the firing rates, though it doesn't carry the same consistency. Finally, the automatic AR-15. In less than 2 seconds, Gedai empties an entire 30-round magazine with one pull of the trigger. That's a firing rate of at least 15 rounds per second. Gedai says videos emerging from Las Vegas lead him to believe some portion of the attack was carried out with modified semi-automatic weapons.
Full autos are very well-tuned machines, and they have a very consistent shot pattern sound.
A well-tuned machine that's difficult for civilians to legally get their hands on. Investigators are still working to determine if any of the weapons used in Paddock's attack were fully automatic. In La Feria, Ryan Nelson, Channel 5 News.
You've heard their music. 4 guys from New Jersey hitting the airwaves like nothing anyone's heard before. Now, it's your chance to see the Tony Award-winning musical event in McAllen.
It's just a dream come true.
Jersey Boys is now playing at the McAllen Performing Arts Center.
It's awesome, you know, we get to go to parts of the country that we may not otherwise get to go to.
But the show isn't just on stage. Behind the scenes is where the real excitement happens. With 53 cast and crew and 7 trucks to go along, the team travels from coast to coast performing songs and the story of Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons.
This is a show that every man dreams to be in.
Yeah, it's the classic American story, you know, 4 Italian guys who have limited options and opportunities come together and against all odds and with hard work ultimately become the greatest pop sensation of all time.
The guys taking center stage come from all sorts of backgrounds. From musical theater to...
I was an athlete first, and then I didn't start really taking this seriously or going down that path until the middle of high school.
Now they're here in South Texas, some just arriving, but they've already seen a few things they like.
So far it's the theater. I got here about 7 minutes ago. But what a gorgeous theater.
You know what I realized is McAllen has Blockbuster. You still have Blockbuster.
Come and take a stroll down memory lane and relive the music of Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons.
There's a lot of people who really, really love this story.
There's a lot of love for this
great
one.
reason.
Jersey Boys, now playing at the McAllen Performing Arts Center until February 11th.
I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has